Alright, so we finally got some closure to one of the wildest stories of 2024, leaving people feeling everything from vindicated to utterly gaslit. So just a couple of months ago, we covered the controversy surrounding the Algerian boxer Imane Khalif, who dominated opponents in the female boxing Olympics, with perhaps this moment being the most remembered. This was the moment that Imane's opponent broke down crying, screaming, "This is unfair," after being forced to quit in her match against Khalif only 46 seconds into the fight. And immediately, this started going viral on X, with people saying that the Olympics allowed trans fighters to fight this year, and that Khalif was a biological male posing as a trans woman. And within a day, this claim traveled all across social media, becoming one of, if not the most talked about topic on X, especially after Elon Musk, JD Vance, and JK Rowling tweeted about it. And even I was inspired by the situation to make a tweet about biological men fighting women in combat sports. But despite all of this pushback, Khalif said that all of this hate only served as sweet fuel and went on to dominate opponents and ultimately winning a gold medal. But Khalif's impressive wins became the focal point that led to further scrutiny, seemingly fueling assumptions that Khalif was really a biological male. However, despite how confident onlookers were, doubts started to rise as soon as these were released. What you're looking at are family photos and a passport that Dad released in defense of his claim that Khalif has always been a female. So it was because of this and other reasons that this led most of us to assume that Khalif was likely intersex instead of transgender. But in the midst of all of this confusion, the vice president of the World Boxing Organization told a Hungarian newspaper that it's been known since 2022 that Khalif was indeed a biological male, claiming that Khalif was previously disqualified from the IBA due to this. But despite his claims, the International Olympic Committee responded by saying that there's never been any evidence that the fighter even has XY chromosomes and didn't even have elevated levels of testosterone. But as these conflicting reports emerged, it became harder for the public to know what to really believe. Okay, so all of this was about 2 months ago, so now let's fast forward to today. After winning the gold medal, Khalif doubled down on being a woman and even decided to sue people for cyberbullying, most notably Elon Musk and JK Rowling. Khalif has been spotted at celebrity events and just this month was featured on the cover of Vogue Arabia. But all of this attention only kept the controversy in the spotlight, making the demand for clarity even stronger. And all of this attention has ultimately led to a new bombshell being dropped. But before we get into that, this story highlights just how important it is to get all of your facts before jumping to conclusions, and that's why I'm happy to have Ground News as the sponsor of today's video. Ground News gathers articles from over 50,000 sources and shows you how they're covered across the political spectrum, letting you see the full picture. Take for instance this story about Imane Khalif. So far it's been covered by 77 sources, but only 5 left-leaning outlets have covered it so far. And here you can also see which outlets are covering it, and if you go over here to the bias comparison tool, you can see how the left, the center, and the right are all covering the same story. So by comparing these different perspectives, you can see just how much the narrative changes depending on who's covering it. I also love the blind spot feed, which highlights stories that are disproportionately covered by one side of the political spectrum. So for example, only 13% of right-wing outlets covered this story about a January 6th defendant seeking a case delay, citing Trump's pardon promise, revealing a potential blind spot. So Ground News has become a valuable tool for me, especially as a Christian seeking truth and integrity in media. And if you want to try Ground News today, go ahead and go to groundnews.com/whatdoyoumeme and get 50% off unlimited access to the Vantage plan. All right, now back to the video. So just a few days ago, a bombshell was dropped that finally provided some clarity to this entire situation. It appears that a health report was leaked earlier this week, revealing not only the details about Khalif's internal male hardware, but also the fact that Khalif has XY chromosomes. Now, I want to be clear, I haven't seen much pushback to this claim, aside from some claiming that the source is a Russian propagandist, so keep in mind that it's possible that this isn't accurate, although according to all of the available evidence that we have today, it appears that it is. And if it is, then anyone that believed that Khalif was a biological woman appears to have been mistaken. So as soon as this report came out, of course this left a lot of people upset, feeling like they've been gaslighted into believing something that went against what seemed so obvious to them. And of course this report also raises some significant ethical issues, not only because it directly contradicts earlier statements from the IOC, but also because it calls into question their responsibility toward athletes. On page 9 of the IBA's handbook, they clearly state that a woman is a person with XX chromosomes and anyone with XY chromosomes is not eligible to compete. So this would apply to Khalif, who by these standards is a male and should not have been allowed to compete. And all of this raises the important question of why did they allow Khalif to compete? How much of this did the IOC know? And why did they not check chromosomes before allowing Khalif to compete? It's because of these issues that I hope that the Olympics decides to correct this wrong by apologizing not only to all of the millions of people that they apparently misled, but especially to the female fighters that lost their opportunity to win a gold medal this year. For those affected, an apology isn't just a formality, it's a matter of respecting the rules and the athletes who play by them. Alright, so when it comes to Khalif, here's the thing, and hear me out here before reacting. I think it's fair to acknowledge that going through a rare condition like being intersex would no doubt be confusing. You'd probably go through life not knowing where exactly you fit in, and this would be even more confusing if you lived your entire life being raised as a female. So when it comes to people who were born with this condition, Jesus showed radical compassion and love to those that didn't fit in society. So when it comes to Khalif, who was also made in the image of God, we should have compassion and love for them as a person. But with that being said, it still doesn't make it okay for Khalif to play in a female combat sport like boxing, since natural advantages can have incredibly dangerous consequences. It's simply not fair nor safe. Now, I can understand from Khalif's perspective how they could have justified competing, but it's not only about Khalif. It's about fairness and the safety of our women in society. So I believe the fact that the Olympics allowed Khalif to compete in female boxing is completely wrong and unfair. Now, if we take anything from this situation, we can remember to always approach these issues with truth and love, using truth not as a weapon to punish, but instead as a tool to clarify, help, and to protect. As Christians, seeking truth with compassion allows us to engage in these tough issues with not just clarity, but also with integrity. And by the way, if you're looking for a good book on this topic and how the church should approach these transgender issues, I put a link and a recommendation down below for this book, as I found it to be one of the best books that I've read on this subject so far. So check it out, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button on your way out, and then check out one of these videos, all right? All right, see you guys next time.